Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of a run through. So today we're going to be taking a look at Torchlight 3. It just got announced for the Switch this morning, so I figured this would be a decent opportunity to take a look at it since it's gone through several updates. I will say initially I had already played through all the content that is available and then had hit the level cap, but then they just did a character wipe recently as a result of it being in early access. The weird thing about it though is it is always online. And they also did say that from what I could tell, the Switch version seemed like it was slated for fall, which we're basically in now. So I'm not sure how that'll work. I'm kind of on the fence of understanding what they mean by that. Just because if it is always online, that'll require a subscription, which is one thing. Two, it didn't have the greatest launch, and it's only been in early access for like 9 weeks now. It was also initially slated as a mobile game, so they've made some iterative changes and stuff to that. They just recently added relics, which was a pretty big change considering, because I think before that you only had 5 skills that you could have anytime, and now they have 8, which is a welcome change for sure, because you sort of were pretty limited on like what you could actually do, and the way you could build out, especially compared to 2 where you had like a lot more open-ended possibility of stuff that you were available to equip and actually work with, which actually I'll quickly kind of show you the skill thing here. I think this is sort of where the game suffers a bit still is you only have really, what is that, 3, 6, 7 abilities for each of the only 2, which I think before you had 3 to choose from. So you only have, 14 skills altogether. And then your relic, you have active and passive stuff. And then on the light tree here, like I haven't used any of these. I haven't used the Dark Mage up until this point either. This is the first time I've used it. I played a Sharpshooter before, and then the Rail Master, which is like a guy that makes like a mobile train. Which is it's kind of the most interesting one. The other ones are they're kind of generic. I would say this one's maybe the other more interesting one, because the robot is cool, but he's sort of just a warrior, and then the mage is I don't know. There's like a dark and light aspect, but most of them either shoots a thing or spreads out a thing, so it's kind of still pretty basic. And then the Railmaster is interesting because you would build a train track, and then the Sharpshooter was just, I play hunters a lot and stuff, so I figured I would give that a try, just because I like the range, and usually they have some pretty decent mobility. I think this is called a Dusk Mage, I want to say, and you can use, it seems like, any type of weapon with any type of character. These are more geared towards staffs and this hand. I don't know if I have one. I don't. I hadn't been using it really. But there's one. Magic Digits, which is like a glove that sort of extends, so you have a bit of reach with those. But I found this two-handed sword to have incredible damage, and a lot of the abilities are all based off of a damage percentage. So it seems to be working pretty well so far. If you've played any kind of top-down dungeon crawler, there's not a whole lot different here, which I think is maybe where the game sort of suffers quite a bit at the moment. Outside of like just the general lack of like diversity in the character, it's sort of like there's pretty much a meta build for each one, and that's about it. And there's not really any variation really. I mean, the variation comes in the form of the relic more than anything else. But even then, that kind of boils down to like maybe 2 or 3 abilities, and that's sort of it. I would say the other big thing that was like a huge proponent of normal Torchlight, which was, or 1 and 2, I guess rather, was sort of the diversity of like pets that you could find. Now they didn't, from what I remember, they didn't do a ton, but they were more interesting, I guess. Here I've maybe seen a handful of them, maybe like 5 or 6, and actually after the patch I've seen less than I did before. There's I think they sort of vary in rarity, and they all have abilities, which I'll, after I kill these 3, I'll show you that too real quick. Yeah, so if you go into the, thank you, buddy. If you go into the skills thing here, you also have You have this too, which is sort of like once you disenchant like a legendary item, it'll have a statistic on it, and then you can sort of pick which one you want, and it'll give you sort of the set bonus without having it fully equipped. And then when you get to the pet there, they have like any of the pets will have these skills on them, and then you can slot in up to 4 of those, which is like crit percentage and all that stuff. So it's still not really like all that exciting, the variation. It's like you could do more crit, or you could have a little bit more defense, or stuff like that. So it's kind of on the dollar side of exciting. It's more of more of an opportunity to min-max rather than like actually change up the variation of the game. That's not to say the game is bad. I got it on launch day, and I've enjoyed it since. I was a little bummed when they did a character wipe. I imagined that was going to happen, but it sort of happened within the first like 2 months. And they kept adding, like they finally added like more of an in-game proponent to it, which is in the form of this. I think it's like this like genie castle sort of deal. So you sort of start unlocking more difficulty the more runs you go through it. So it's like if you do. You finish like the first one that has random modifiers, and you get the second one that has like 2 modifiers, and then so on and so forth, and they'll just keep going up. The more you get, so those were those were like exciting, I guess, or had more of something to focus on at the end of the game than anything else. But then they wiped it, so it's now basically starting completely over. You also lose your base too, which is a new thing for this, which I'll show you here in a bit. Which I think is where, like I said, this game used to be a free-to-play game initially, and then and an always-online game, which they sort of scrapped half of that. But you can still sort of feel the mobile stuff in there, and I think that it still like hinders the game. Like the foundation of the game is still sort of stuck in that free-to-play aspect, even though there's no microtransactions or anything whatsoever. They did change initially. And there still is. You can turn it on and off, but there was these items called like Lifeblood or Lifebound or something like that. But that would be like almost everything that you would find would be that type, and then they would die, or you would lose them whenever you died. So basically, without putting a scroll on them, that would take that part off, and those were like exceedingly rare at the beginning. So basically, like every time you would die, and at the time there was a lot of server issues and stuff like that too, so you would die for what would seem like no reason or just latency, and then you would lose basically everything on your character, so then you would start out super weak again. And sometimes that would be like on a boss fight too, so you could like res and then have nothing, and then have to fight the boss like even weaker than you just were. And it just wasn't super fun because of that, and luckily they took that out so you can choose to either have that option or not. What I've kind of done with that is sort of like grabbed, say, like 20 or 30 of those scrolls, and then switched over to that, found like a set that I liked, and then took it, unbound it, and then kept going. That way you have like a foundation, to sort of start from that you're not going to lose. And then I'm trying to think of what else was like a big issue. I mean, the server stuff has pretty much all been ironed out. I haven't had too many issues there. There's still no single player setting in the game, so you have to be online, which is another kind of big bummer, which I imagine or hope with the Switch release, which I hope would coincide with the 1.0, which is a super short time to be in early access. That's the other thing I'm kind of like weary on. Unless they plan to do more like long-term updates, which would be great, because I don't know that the Switch has any early access stuff outside of maybe like Fortnite. I think is still technically an early access game, which is already crazy. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work. Because like I said, if it's fall of this year, we're here. So I don't know when. I'm assuming late fall. But yeah, it wasn't received super well to begin with. They've definitely made changes. They've definitely been listening to the audience overall. But I wonder fundamentally if like the foundation it's set on is going to be trouble for that. Although that being said, they did implement a way to have more abilities than you had previously, like active. So maybe that is all subject to change. They've mentioned that the system it's built on is really easy to make adjustments with. So maybe that is bodes well for the future of the game. I don't quite know. I'd also say too, like there's only, I wanted to say 3 zones that are completely finished, which I think is all of them. 3 or 4 maybe. I'll look at the map and actually tell you here in a bit. But yeah, so it's not like, it's not super long either. I think I got to cap within like 20 hours ish, and obviously there's other difficulties and stuff you can run through the same content with and keep progressing there. But it does still feel a bit thin, and that mode actually helped the genie mode that they had added. But I don't know. It still seems a tad on the light side. Let me see if I can look at the map here. Yeah, so goblin, infested, and then mount. Yeah, so there's only the 3 zones at the moment. If you'll notice too, this screen looks very, like, for whatever reason, like very free to play ish. And then that especially when the life blitz stuff was mandatory, you really felt like, oh, I imagine there was a monetary thing in place to subvert that at the time. Same with respecking, is you still have to find an item to get your points back, which I don't remember the first game being that way. I think you just had to pay a certain amount of gold, which that's another thing too, is your gold has a cap to it as well. So I think it's 20,000, and that just caps out. There's also a stash that shares between players, and I think the gold actually does too, which is kind of frustrating. It's not like you use it for a ton of stuff, but enough to where it's not really in service of you as the player to have that, and it's just weird. I don't really know what the point of that is. I think it's maybe so you couldn't just deck yourself out immediately when you get into a game, but I don't know what the limitation is there, because there's no like scoreboard, or I think there might be a scoreboard on the runs at the end that might have had one. I can't remember because I can't go back and look at it now. But either way, it seems like there is a lot of would have been a lot of monetary implementations for stuff that is still largely, like, you could always play the other game with people, but you could largely play that game solo, and I don't think I ever played with anybody else in any of them. So that's a bit strange, and like I said, you can still definitely feel that stuff in the game here. There's also what appears to be like, there was the fame system in the other game that would come up, and you would get certain rewards and stuff, and that has been implemented now because it wasn't there initially. But if you look at it, that still does sort of look like a battle pass. You know, it's not that it is, but it does have the trappings of one. So that's another thing. I wonder if they were thinking of that initially and just took it out for whatever reason. I will say too, I'm also playing this game with a controller, and it actually feels really good to play with a controller as opposed to mouse and keyboard. Yeah, I'll kind of. I mean, there's not a ton. I'll sort of finish this up or get to the next teleport, and then I'll take you to the base so you can kind of see what that looks like. And then we'll probably wrap it up because there's not a whole lot happening. You can also still send your pet back and forth between town. That was kind of the big thing here, so you could kind of keep going continually. Though there is systems now to disenchant and enchant more so than before, and then there's also like, well, you'll see when we get to the base. I'll show you that stuff. But there's plenty of reasons to not do that now instead of just gold, especially because there is a gold cap now, so that is already a bit weird. And then because of the enchant and things that you feed the items to, it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. Like, it would almost be better served if there was a way to send it back to base and then have it do all that stuff for you. I also find a lot of the abilities to just kind of be a little dull. Like, outside of the variety being kind of limited, it's sort of almost all lay a thing in front of you. I assume I'm fighting this now? No? Oh, maybe it's just kill the minions. I'd say the boss fights are probably the highlight. There's also some other variation stuff. They just added like cellars that you can find sort of in the map, it seems. I don't know if they just added that, but I hadn't seen it when I had played initially. And then they also had this, like, after a certain level thing, I think there's a another portal deal that will open. So you'll kill this creature and then a portal will open, and then you can kind of go through it for extra fame and items and things. And it's like a harder variation of the bosses, and that's just in the game regularly. So there's no specialty there. You just find them and then go through them. That's another thing too, is like almost every boss has a fire streak that they lay on the ground, which is kind of dull. Like I wish they would change it up a little bit. I think that might be tied to the zone itself, because the second one is more of a poison area, and then the third one is I can't remember now. It's a different one, but I don't know. It's just it's a little underwhelming overall, because I like the game, and I've enjoyed the other ones too quite a bit. Two specifically, I played a lot of, but I don't know. It is a little dull. Like and that's not necessarily how I ever felt in a Torchlight game. They were always pretty enjoyable and engaging the whole way through, and I definitely played through and finished this, so there is that. But I don't know. It just doesn't have that same feel. I mean, design-wise, aesthetically, and everything, it's still up to par, and it looks, I think, more interesting than any of the other ones like Diablo and all that. But it is just, I don't know. There's just something still missing from it to make it a full experience, or a better, like a worthwhile package, because it is $30, which is a bit of an ask, I think, for still what is here. Like if it had launched early access at like, I don't know, maybe 15, like 10 to 15, even 20, I think would be more reasonable. Because again, like I said, I put a decent amount of hours into it. I think about 40 altogether, which is, I think, probably well worth $40 or $30 arguably, but it still doesn't, I don't know, it still seems like a bit of a price to charge for this. And I don't know, maybe the 1.0 release, if that is what we're going to get, then this may be a different story. But it is strange. It is a very strange game. It's a strange title. It's a strange happenstance. It's a really odd thing to have happened. I don't know, and still be happening, I guess. Like I said, especially them transitioning from like an MMO to, or an MMO concept, while still not totally subverting that. Then also like a mobile game, and still not exactly subverting that either. You will find, I guess, pets in cages now. But yeah, I see just another cat. I've gotten like 3 cats, like 4 or 5 llamas. And I know there's other stuff in there. I've seen them. But I just haven't received any of them. It's also another weird and kind of unfortunate thing, is like the Switch version, they showed them getting a special pet, which is not a huge thing. But it's like the people on PC who adopted early and paid for it and dealt with all the hiccups and gimmicks that have happened don't get anything, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, maybe when it launches we'll get something as a result of that. But so far the only thing that we've really gotten is our characters wiped, and then like everything reset, and no real anything to show for it. Like the last week they were handing out a bunch of items and stuff whenever that was going on, but nothing you could keep. It was just like, here's 1,000 wood to decorate your base that's going to disappear in 2 days. So I don't know, it's just odd. They're kind of handling the PC side a little less enjoyably than they are the console, it seems like, which is, I mean, typical PC kind of gets shafted on a lot of stuff, but I don't know. It seems weird to the early fans, especially the ones that stuck with it, to then be kind of shorthanded on that stuff. I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll see something. I don't know. It's hard to say, but at this point, there's no mention of that I can find. So, but yeah, I'll show you the base here real quick, and then we'll dip out. I'll probably maybe skip around the actual video here, because there's. But yeah, so like this here, you'll see it's like you can offer. These are like, I think, things that the goblins drop, and then this will give you better fire defense, but it's only like 5% when it's mapped out, and that's like a lot of these. I mean, obviously you kill large groups of people, but still, it's like, I don't know, 5%, and you have to have this thing in your base the whole time to do it. This is the thing I was talking about with gear. So it's like you disenchant gear, and it all feeds into this percentage for gear drop, but again, it caps at 5%, which is like so minimal that it's almost not worth it. I mean, it is obviously any bonus is worth getting, I suppose, but it's kind of lackluster. This is the disenchanting altar here, so basically you can break down anything, which they made this a lot faster. This used to take forever, which is good. But yeah, you break that stuff down, and then if you do any of the legendary stuff, you'll get an item there, and then you can enchant stuff. Same here. These are like tokens for bosses, I think, that you find. Automations too. Yeah, okay, battle automations. And then so you can customize the stuff. There's like a lot of items, and you find more as you go along, which I think is probably the neater aspect of this game, because you can put a lot of stuff kind of all over the place. But as you can see, they all have like a gold limit and an item limit, which again with the gold cap is weird already, but I think it's in service of like the free to play side of this game where it was at, where it's like, oh, if you want to spend X amount of money, you can get X amount of gold and do this. Here's the pets too. You can see there's like a rarity to them, but again, they're still pretty basic. It's like llamas, cats, and that. I know there's like an owl that you can pick at the beginning, but nothing like too substantial. And then this is where you respec, and then I'll get one more skill here because that'll give me my 3rd tier. Which, when you're charged with Unholy, you double, which, I don't know. It's just, like, the game is not bad. It functions. It plays well. It's just, it's missing a lot of the charm and flavor, I think, of the other games. You also used to find, like, quests out in the world and other people to talk to, and here you don't do that at all, really. There's, like, in the towns you'll find them, then you'll go out in the world and then go back to the town and then sort of portal around and all that. Also, you won't always go back to this base. So, like, when you're going through the transition levels, which are like Well-Trodden Path or Overgrown Trek or whatever, these are, like, other people's bases that you pass by. Like, I'll go to this one just so you can sort of see what I mean. Which is cool, but there's no way I can tell to, like, specifically go back to those or to see them. And, like, yeah, if this person, like, not done anything to their base whatsoever, so you can't even really, like, utilize the fact that there is a base here. Like, I would just rather it kind of be yours every time. And maybe if you in single player, it will be, which I think is the better route to take. And then additionally, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've said it a couple times, but it's just, there's something still missing here to make it like a quality game. And it's a shame because the other two are really highly regarded, and 2 especially was a super solid game. And I also don't know if they're going to have mod support stuff either, like they did in the other ones, like workshop support, because that was a big part of the second one. Because you could have like head crabs as pets and change. People had made like entire classes as well, which was super neat. So hopefully they'll do that also, but I haven't seen it mentioned. So yeah, I don't know, guys. I think it's a cool game. I think it has potential, and I have faith in the developer that it will. But this is a very weird first showing, and I guess whenever 1.0 comes out, we'll have a better idea of what all that ends up playing out to be. But as it sits, I would wait, especially with the fact that your characters are going to get wiped anyway, probably when that 1.0 happens or sometime soon. There's not a whole lot of reason to invest at the moment. I think it's probably better to just wait it out. I almost wish that I would have as well, but I am prone to enjoy early access games. And I like to see the development of a game, even if I'm not totally a part of it, and just kind of see that process and sort of see what they change and how they handle that stuff, because that gives you kind of a good idea of what's going to happen in the future. But yeah, I don't know. I would say pass, I think. If you find it on sale, if you found it for like $15, then I would jump in because it may increase in price. I would hope not, because I almost feel like the other ones launched all at $20 anyway. So this one launched more expensive, less full-featured, more buggy, and with definitely free-to-play trappings left around it. So yeah, I would wait. I think I would hold off for a while, but that's it for this one, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you have any suggestions on games you would like to see me cover or anything like that, please leave in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Subscribe, all that shit. So.